Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. So I'm Matilda. I'm from the customer experience team, and this is.
Hello, I'm Lucy. I'm from the Web and Innovation team at West Northampton.
So we're going to talk a little bit about our rate this page function that's now on the website, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a function which lets you rate the page. It is a bit more complicated than that, which we'll go into, and we're very proud of it. But me and Lucy are both from kind of two teams that sort of spearheaded this and went through it because it helps us do our own job. I'm from the customer experience team. So what we've been doing is we were kind of hired to go through and look at the website and improve it in terms of the customer journey. So improve the written content. We're all kind of creative writers in our team. And that's our background. So we're looking at how we can make the website plain English and these sort of things. So you can imagine that having a function on the website which allows customers to look at the pages and tell us whether the content is actually being helpful for them or where there's areas missing is really, really useful for us to do our job. And I have to say it's helped massively. It is, like I said, a bit more complicated than just a rating system. You can see on the screen here, what we haven't got on here is on the bottom of the website, it has a bit which says, is this information helpful? And then if you click no, you get this drop down here where you've got content and services. And if you click content, it brings you to this, where you can kind of have a number rating system, and then you leave a comment where you're explaining what the issue was with the actual web page. There are several versions of these at different councils. If you look at websites, loads of places have rate this page and sort of feedback options. But what they're missing is kind of more of a streamlined journey. So like you can see on this one, these are Manchester and Norfolk ones, which are really great websites, but I have to say our rate this page function is better. It's the same. And they either have too limited of a rating option. So you see you've got smiley faces. All that's really going to tell you is, did they like the page? Like, did it work for them? They're not telling you what they might have had an issue with or why they liked it or why they didn't like it. There isn't a feature there for them to kind of expand on their point. And this other one here, it's kind of too broad. They can complain about kind of anything in this point. Whereas if I actually go back to the last one, the reason that we ended up putting content and services is because, as the web team pointed out, and this was a big discussion that we all had together, was while it would be great to have a feedback function, an issue that always comes up is when customers are frustrated and they can't find what they need and they do want to say that it's not working, they are just going to look for any place that they can kind of say, hey, this isn't working, and it may not be anything to do with that page or it may not be anything to do with the content. And then you have a huge volume of information coming through, which is kind of, it's important information, but they've put it in the wrong place. Like, I can't tell you why your council tax wasn't looked at that particular day, or why this service provider maybe was a bit impolite, or something that you found frustrating about an actual service that we provide. I can't give you that feedback. My team isn't supposed to give you that feedback. I'm looking at why the actual page is not working for you, why the wording isn't working for you, why this link didn't work, this form didn't work, these kind of things that I can help with and the web team can help with. So our lovely ex-colleague, Brodie Carter, who's now gone off to Australia and kind of spearheaded this rate this page function, decided that actually adding the service option and making it much clearer for customers coming onto the website. They come to this, they say, no, I'm not happy. Then they have this very clearly. So is it the information on the page you're not happy with? Or is it that you've had too long to wait, that you don't feel you were spoken to well, that you had any of these other kind of service issues? And it will take you to, if it is a service issue, it will take you to our comments and complaints page, which is a really great page that works quite well. So I think that ours is actually kind of a version that other councils should have a look at and think about in terms of directing customers. Because while people are very smart and they know what they want. When you are stressed, it's those pain points that you're not going to be thinking too clearly about where you're actually putting those complaints. So to go into some of the testing, again, I'm unfortunately not the best person to be talking about this. I'm kind of underqualified, as it was our Brody that did all this, but I know that we had many discussions about how the wording was going to go, things like number scales, how big the number scales were, whether we used 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, all those little things. We had our test emails, which you can see here, and I know Brody worked closely with Kevin as well. Hi Kevin, to kind of figure out how it might work. We tested for wording clarity. We got some colleagues and things to go through it. We were discussing with the web team all the time of how it would work. Lucy provided lots of versions of things as well for us to go through. It was a very long process actually to get it right, but it resulted in quite a good option. When it did go live, you can see this is kind of how the email appears, how it comes through to us. This is an example of one of the many that we got for the contact us page, which I'll go into a bit later how we fix that, of people coming through. So they've rated it extremely difficult. Then it's usually normally only a sentence that we get of what the actual problem is. Sometimes we get whole paragraphs, which are interesting to get. And the way that we dealt with this was they would come through to the customer experience team email. And there was also a kind of back office bit as well of the yes/no stats that the web team could look at and we can look at too as well. But we would get these emails coming through, and initially how we did it was we would have multiple meetings a week where we would go through these emails, we would respond to them or send them off to the right people, talk to a service and say, is this actually an issue, or is there some information that can be added here, or is this customer right in thinking this, to have a look at that. And it was really helpful in finding those kind of blind spots of things that while you're within the council and while you're within a service, you aren't going to notice that this thing is an issue, that this wording is an issue, or you wouldn't think they wouldn't understand that thing, or you wouldn't think that that form was difficult or the journey was difficult. And you also, as just an individual person, you aren't going to be experiencing everything we have to offer on the website. You're never going to do every single form. You're never going to do every single page. There's plenty of pages on the website I still haven't gotten to yet or looked at. But through Rate This page, I can see, somebody had an issue with that page. I'm going to jump to it and have a look there. So since our go live date, and I think these statistics are really interesting because we were talking about this actually, there's 7,744 ratings. That's since the 1st of July. So that's not that long ago. And you can kind of tell from the emails that were coming through to us, it was hundreds every day that would come through. Some of them would be ones that there was not really anything to do, or they'd gone to the wrong place. We still have customers stumbling into the wrong thing, or it wasn't something we could do about it, or it was something we'd already fixed or were about to fix or they were wrong about. So we didn't have to respond to every single one of those emails, thankfully. But it was interesting to see how quickly people, the moment that is this information helpful option was there on the website, how quickly they went for it. But there's some really great areas that I think Rate This page has kind of helped with, and we've got some examples of customers coming through what the kind of emails were. So we have an accessibility one here, which has been really helpful, again, in finding those blind spots of areas you might not realise. So for this one, the customer, they didn't have a phone. Now, I never considered, in my mind of course, somebody can't use that form because they don't have a phone number. They don't have a phone. They're in a vulnerable position. They don't have access to a landline. They don't have a mobile phone. There isn't somewhere they can go to. It's a difficult situation to be in. And then not being able to fill in a form in order to get help because they're in such a vulnerable position is not something we want. And it's not something we would have considered. So this is an area that it kind of brought to light for us. We got the quick updates that we can do where someone says there's a spelling mistake or this line isn't great. We have this one here where they said, I don't know whether my passport is supposed to be in date. Can I use an out-of-date one? We saw that email, and as we all have access to the live site, we went right on and added that, yes, it can be an out-of-date one in that situation. You also have suggestions. So you have customers coming through and saying, could you add this? We have an anything else section suggested here, and sometimes those are actually really helpful because there's things that we may not have thought of as an option to have. So now we have like an example of us actioning that feedback. So you saw before an email about the contact us page, and this is what we had earlier, which was we had a page you would come to which had the top tasks, and this was like a very long list of different areas you could go to, which is a really useful thing to have. But the way they would get to this page is they'd click contact us, and instead of getting contact details, they'd get top tasks. And of course, that's because we want to make it so that they're not immediately going for that phone contact. We don't want to make it too easy for them to go straight into that. We're trying to make it self-service, so we're offering top tasks, but it's still quite for customers a frustrating thing, and that's what we were seeing through RTP, for them to try and contact us and come to top tasks and not realise that they could then go to contact details, which a lot of people struggle to understand. And then on the next page, you'd have contact details, and you'd have the call us number still quite far down. And it would have the order of things just wasn't quite working, and it was confusing people. And we got a lot of feedback on that, asking for it to change and sort of struggling with that, asking for more numbers or more clarity. And this is kind of how we fixed it. So now we have the kind of find a service drop down, so it's not taking up quite as much room. We have like the bigger options, so they're not missing the phone number as much. They can see our inquiry form is right there. The message is a bit clearer, and it's more compact and concise for people to go through. And we have seen after doing this, I don't think we've had hardly any now complaints coming in about the contact us page. So it's a really measurable thing for us to have, in that we can see when something's working, and that's really useful for us. And that's something that we discussed at the beginning that we wanted to use it for, was we're missing that data which tells us how those content improvements are working, and now we kind of have it, which is really great. So now I'm going to hand over to Lucy, who's going to talk more about the kind of back office updates.
Yes, so very briefly, I just want to, I guess, kind of translate some of the more technical parts from our developer. So you could say that I was sort of acting as a bit of a middleman between Matilda's team and then also our development team within DTI. Our very, very talented developer, Chris, and also obviously Kevin, you were involved in this work. I was working very closely with Chris to obviously get this piece over the line, get it integrated obviously into our website. And then what happens with the information, not only does it send an email obviously to our inboxes with the data, it also then feeds into Jadu Connect. So starting with the actual front end, so the form that you've seen a couple of screenshots of, it's a JavaScript form that's created in React. The form itself has field validation, so obviously when we're collecting the email address, we want to make sure that it's in the correct format of an email before it then goes into Jadu Connect. So if we need to contact the customer, we can do. There is a Google reCAPTCHA validation piece at that stage. Then we then use the Form to CXM API that was created by our developer Chris. So that's built in Laravel PHP framework. I am reading that off of the screen because I don't want to get this part wrong. There is then another Google reCAPTCHA to basically validate what was coming through from the front end form, validates it again. If there are absolutely tons of submissions, which obviously we've seen, it does get quite a lot of submissions, the API then learns to kind of queue those submissions and then kind of fires them all off in order to Jadu Connect. So that's then obviously where we can view the data in our back office area. At the moment, we can just view and download the cases in bulk in a CSV format. We also obviously get the email with the data that sends to our teams. And then there are workflow and reporting opportunities, which nicely leads on to my next slide, which is kind of what our next steps are for this feature. Obviously, we've gone live. We went live on the 1st of July. We wanted to kind of see how it worked, how it bedded in. Really, really fantastic results. So now we're looking at like what more can we do? So one of the areas we're looking at is to basically be able to improve reporting. So the data at the moment you saw in a couple of screenshots, we basically copy the link that the person, the link to the page that the person was on. What we then now want to do is map that link back to a service, because we're finding it a little bit manual to have to kind of take a copy of the information and then deduce from the links, the pages that people are on, the areas that those pages relate to. So if we can match them to, adult social care, children's, waste and that kind of thing, we'll be able to take a copy, filter by that service area, and then immediately share it with the service to say, this is all the feedback you've received. Here are some of the actions that we've taken against some of that feedback. The other point, so not long ago we had obviously the men's cycling tour that came around Northamptonshire, and what we basically did was we created quite a promotional content page using our landing page template. So we use Drupal as a CMS platform, and we have a template for landing pages, and it basically allows for really nice looking hero images at the top of the page. But actually what we then found after the men's tour finished was that template didn't have the rate this page feature enabled. To go live, we just enabled it on our sort of standard service content pages, which is obviously what we wanted to do in the first instance, because that's where our content is. Whereas if we were to place it on the landing pages, people could then start to rate their experience without actually getting to any content. So what we're going to try to do is basically enable it so we can toggle it on and off of our landing pages, and then it allows us, so for any more like promotional or events that we want to promote, we can still use our landing page template, but we can then switch the rate this page feature on if we need to. And then finally, obviously talking a bit more about Jadu Connect, we want to be able to manage those cases more inside Jadu Connect rather than obviously just being able to read the emails that come through. So we're working on a bit of a workflow piece with our lead CRM designer, Kerry, in our team, who's extremely knowledgeable about the platform. So she's going to help us with being able to basically allow us to kind of update the cases as they come in to say, shared with the web team, awaiting further information, or actioned, or just closed if there's obviously no action. So yes, they're our next steps for the Rate This Page feature. It'll definitely be an ongoing piece because it's benefiting us absolutely loads. So we want to keep adding and iterating to it. But that's it. If anyone's got any questions.